Yep, it's that time of year again, folks. We're getting ready to talk about some terrible films. In case you missed it, I uploaded my best movies of 2022 countdown with my 20 favorite movies. This video is going to be very, very different, though, because these movies are the worst. And look, I understand how difficult it is to make movies. I understand the dedication and the work that goes into it. But this is just a list of the movies that I just sat there and I wondered, why do I do this? Why do I put myself through this torture? But a little disclaimer before I begin. I should note that I did not sit through every single movie of 2022, so a lot of the bad movies that you might think will be on this list aren't going to be on it. These are the 10 worst movies that I sat through in 2022, not necessarily all of them put together, if that makes sense. But before I get going into this list, let me know what your 10 worst movies of the year are down below in the comments section. And hey, do consider becoming a subscriber. Hit that notification bell as well so you can always stay in the loop over here. If you love talking all new things, movies, and entertainment, this is the place to be. And do consider hitting that thumbs up. Why not? If you found this cathartic in any shape or form, I'm happy I could help you out there. But let's get into it. Before I get into my list of 10, there are a few dishonorable mentions. Ones that I really wanted to put on this list, but I couldn't squeeze them on. Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild? The Man from Toronto? Minions: The Rise of Gru? Emancipation? Halloween Ends? There's 10 more that are worse than that, guys! Oh, I'm gonna need some help after this, but let's just get into it. Number 10! With a cast like this, how does this movie fail so hard? And I should have known better before I walked into this theater. This was the first new movie that I reviewed in 2022. Oh man, it got off to a rocky start. But this is the same director who brought you Dark Phoenix, the really shitty X-Men movie from 3 years ago. I should have known way better before I got in here. The action sequences are so choppy to look at. The editing is absolutely horrendous. Even when we're not focused on an action sequence, the camera work surrounding just a normal conversation is sickness-inducing. I had to lay down and take a nap after this, not because I was exhilarated, but because my eyes just couldn't take anymore. We have yet another studio that really wants to dig into the Marvel success. Secret Headquarters is a really, really, really bad comic book movie. Owen Wilson is really trying his damnedest here, but the characters surrounding him, absolutely hollow, and the kids are trying their hardest, but I just could not find a way to get into this. This is a movie that the studio directly put onto their streaming service, I think for good reason. I don't think they wanted to subject a normal theater goer to Secret Headquarters at all. I wish I could get into my Secret Headquarters instead of watching this thing again. Not to mention, can we all agree that he just looks like a diet Ant-Man? Like, the suit and the poster literally just looks like they're trying to rip off Ant-Man. I just think that's fitting with Quantum Mania coming out to make us feel better about this release. Of course Crimes of the Future was going to be on this list. It was one of the most sickness-inducing movies of the entire year. Yeah, David Cronenberg has put out good movies in the past. The Fly, Eastern Promises come to mind. But when you put a story like this, where pretty much nothing of note happens except pretty much gigantic torture porn sequences, I hated it. Me and my brother hated every second of this. Viggo Mortensen, Lea Seydoux, and Kristen Stewart are all talented human beings. This did not showcase their talents at all. Speaking of talented folks that are absolutely wasted, I love Ben Affleck. I love Ana de Armas. I really do. Putting them together is not the best idea. And if we can learn one thing from Deep Water, these two do not have the best chemistry, and we should never pair them off as an on-screen couple ever again. But another big reason why this is on this list is because this is the director of Fatal Attraction, trying to make a big comeback here. And this movie just fails so incredibly hard. Deep Water is one of those titles that you just scroll past on Hulu as fast as you possibly can just to not subject yourself to the boredom. I hated it. One of the most boring movies of the year. Please avoid Deep Water any way you can, because you're just bound to drown in sheer blandness. Can George Miller just stick to Mad Max movies? No? 3,000 Years of Longing was terrible. Like, Idris Elba comes on screen and he looks like a gigantic absolute moron. Tilda Swinton and, again, two talented people. And the movie itself and the story is just so idiotic that they never really utilize their full talent to the fullest extent. 3,000 Years of Longing is 3,000 years of watching a movie that I wish I could have back. It felt more like 3,000 years of longing for something better. Oh, damn it, The Tiger Rising. I feel like I was the only person on the planet who actually saw this movie and actually put myself through that torture. But my goodness, this is based off of a young adult novel that I actually read when I was like 3rd or 4th grade, written by the same person who did Because of Winn-Dixie, another book that I loved as a kid. And the book itself actually is really, really solid. It has a lot of really good messages in there. This movie is not reflective of that at all. Queen Latifah gets a paycheck here, and Dennis Quaid really tries to act his heart out, and he fails. Speaking of epic failures, The King's Daughter. A movie that was 8 years in the making. It spent an eternity almost in development hell. And the studio is finally like, you know what? Let's just get this out in the open. Let's just rip it off like a band-aid. My God, again, talk about wasted potential here, because you have some neat ideas in this movie. You can see what these filmmakers were going for in terms of the design, but the underwater sequences just look so incredibly cheap and fake. Pierce Brosnan's wig looks like it was about to fall off in between takes. I don't know what the hell happened with this development, but this deserves some research. The King's Daughter was a movie I did not initially review when it came out this past January. I think it's good that I avoided it for as long as I did, but some people told me that I needed to check this out for myself just to see how bad it was, and now I can sit here comfortable in saying that it's horrible. I don't know how much better I feel about that, though. See, guys, I told you Morbius was going to be on this list from the very beginning, didn't I? And nobody listened to me. Everybody was like, come on, Zack, the movie isn't even out yet. You haven't given it a chance. Yeah, because this is put together in the same studio that the Venom movies are. And I hate both the Venom movies. Morbius is somehow even worse. The only saving grace and the only entertaining thing about Morbius was our villain here. But even then, it is such a cliched villain. It is centered around the villain reveal, which I absolutely despise. And Jared Leto, I'm sure, got super method sitting in a cave looking at vampire bats for hours on end, for sure. Because, remember, he said in interviews that he goes method a lot of the time. But, man, this is one of the most epically failed comic book movies ever. I said this in my initial review. Wouldn't it have been much cooler if this thing was rated R? This is centered around a vampire bat who eats people until they're into bloody smithereens. How is it possible that the same people who did both Venom movies, both of which are not rated R either, one of which involving carnage, how have they not learned their lesson yet? You can make an R-rated comic book movie and you can still make a ton of money with it. I hated it. It's not Morbin time at all. Just bury this thing in the bottommost part of the Walmart bargain bin. We're done. Man, we sure got a lot of legacy sequels this year. And did anybody realize that there was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre legacy sequel that came out on Netflix this past February? I was aware of it, and it was really fucking bad. Anytime you have a script that tells one of the most iconic horror movie faces of our generation that he is canceled, I wanted this movie to be canceled as soon as the first scene wrapped up. It was horrible. Absolutely dreadful. Some of the kills were inventive. I'll give it credit for that. That's why it's not in the #1 slot. And also because there was just something else that we'll get to. But man, Netflix just needs to bury this thing until everybody forgets about it. Dreadful. And now we come to the #1 pick. Ugh. There was no other movie this year that angered me more than Firestarter. This is a remake that could have absolutely worked. It's actually based off of, a Stephen King novel, and there was already a Firestarter movie out there that isn't really all that great. So this is your opportunity to actually update it and make it really, really cool. And what do? They shoehorn in the most Marvel-like ending you could have ever imagined. They basically liken this to a superhero origin story with this little girl who is trying her damnedest. But the writing and everything surrounding Firestarter, baffling to me. This movie warrants absolutely no reason to exist beyond being like, okay, let's basically try this again, and I'll give them credit for trying. But the ending of this movie was easily the maddest I've been at any movie this year. This is a movie I never envisioned myself watching again. It's one of the worst Stephen King adaptations of all time. And Zack Efron really needs to pick better projects from this point on. I mean, thankfully he's got the Iron Claw to look forward to, but I'm sure he would even like to forget Firestarter. But guys, that'll about do it for my worst movies of 2022. We never have to talk about those movies again. Oh my god. I hope this was just as cathartic for you as it was for me, my friends. If you're new, one more reminder to hit that subscribe button and tap that thumbs up as well. That would be a humongous help all the way around. And thank you again for continuing to talk movies with me on the regular. Like, despite how mad I got in this video, it really is a joy to talk movies with you on the regular. And I hope you guys have at least half as much fun as I do making these. So, with all that being said, let me know which your guys' worst movies of the year are down in the comments section. Let's compare and contrast. And with all that being said, back talk, commence!